Are you a fan of The Handmaid's Tale? You want to talk about how Gilead could be America in real life within 10 years without the Constitution changing at all? I'm a lawyer in real life. I don't play one on television. I have been thinking about this. Could Gilead happen in the real United States? And I have come to the conclusion that yes, it most certainly can without the Constitution even changing. And let me explain why I think this. If you've never watched The Handmaid's Tale, this is the 1-minute summary. It is a fictionalized story about the United States, which becomes Gilead, and it is now ruled by a theocracy, men who believe religion should be the law of the land. Women have been stripped of their rights. They can't read, they can't vote, they can't participate in governing society. And most importantly, women's reproduction, their fertility is now, it now belongs to the state. It now belongs to the government. So in the name of reproducing, because apparently the birth rate is very low, women are forced to be given to certain men as handmaids. And these handmaids are raped by the men and their wives in order for them to have children, and then their children are taken from them. Could this ever happen in the United States of America? Could a Handmaid's Tale ever occur here? And in order for us to really delve into this topic, we need to go back to our original Constitution. Now, when I say original Constitution, I'm really talking about the Constitution that exists today in the United States of America. But our Constitution has changed over time. There have been amendments to the Constitution. There have been things taken out of the Constitution. But when I say original Constitution, I'm really talking about the legal framework that existed initially and still pretty much exists today. Initially, the Constitution treated enslaved blacks with no political or legal disregard. They were counted as 3/5 of persons for purposes of congressional representation. There was a Fugitive Slave Act that said if they were able to escape, they had to be returned to their enslavers. Slavery was protected for at least 20 years in the original Constitution. They had no rights as people, as citizens in this country. And the United States Supreme Court doubled down on this treatment of blacks in the United States. There were decisions like the Dred Scott decision, which would not recognize black people who were enslaved in this country as having any rights. The original Constitution treated one group of people as property. It codified the mistreatment of people. Now let's talk about how a modern day Gilead could come about under our current Constitution. So how could a modern day Gilead occur without changing the Constitution? So let's start with the 13th Amendment. So the 13th Amendment was passed after the Civil War, and it is the amendment that prohibits slavery in the United States. Except, did you know that there is a huge exception to the 13th Amendment? And I'm going to read it because I believe a lot of people have not read or don't remember exactly what it says. But the 13th Amendment says in Section 1, neither slavery, or involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So based on the literal reading of the 13th Amendment, our Congress could pass a law, could pass legislation that says if a woman who is fertile, a woman who is found to be fertile, refuses to have children, she commits a crime. They could go on to say that that woman who has committed the crime of not having a baby or refusing to have a baby, that as punishment for that crime, the state, the government, now owns her fertility. then Congress could pass legislation that says that a woman who is found to be fertile but refuses to have a child and has been convicted of that crime, her fertility is now owned by the state, can be forced to bear children with duly designated individuals. So those individuals could be the commanders. And if she is being forced to bear a child, it could be the exact way that we see in The Handmaid's Tale. So if you're thinking, woman, you are nuts, nothing like this could ever happen because I have rights that would prevent this from happening, like the right to privacy, the right to marital autonomy, the right to raise my children the way that I want, the right to same-sex marriage, that all these rights that I have would prevent anything like a Gilead from occurring. If that's what you're thinking, I need you to see my next video because I'm going to explain how you don't have the rights that you think you have based on what our Supreme Court has said. But y'all let me know, do you think this is a very nutty idea? Or do you think in the context of the world that we are living in today in the United States of America that something like Gilead could occur? I look forward to hearing what you have to say in the comments.